Judges chapter 7, chapter 8, we're going to continue the story of Gideon. And it is a tragedy. Always remember, the book of Judges is a tragedy. It's not good news, it's sad news. It is trying to tell us some things. And Judges 6 ended with, God has clothed him with power. God has allowed him to call out, and, we're going to take on the Midianites. He has crushed the idol of Baal and Ashtoreth to the ground, and it is looking up. And it continues to look up, but then it gets a little surprising. Because what happens is he calls out and says, hey guys, come join me. And they do. 32,000. That's not a bad number. It's about 4 divisions in the American Army today. However, as they look over at the enemy, at this point they just say they are like locusts, they fill the land. Well, we know eventually from the rest of the chapter, it's 135,000 soldiers, and they're mobile. They got camels. Now, I don't know, when I was in Israel, they let us ride on camels. They're mean, okay? They have attitude, okay? You don't want to have a charging camel come at you, okay? It's not, they're heavy, they're big. They can run you over. So all of those things are there, and they're looking down, and they got a lot of camels. The enemy has 5 times the number of troops as they have. And they're going to be on the offensive, which, by the way, normally you want to have more people than the defensive because that gives you some chance to win. Instead, they've got 5 soldiers for every one you got. And God says, you need to go recruit some more. No, he didn't say that. He goes, you got too many. I'm sure at this point, Gideon's going, how does he do his math? We're outnumbered 5-1. How is that too many? Because if you beat them now, Israel will say, we did it. We are the bad boys. Look at what we can do. And then walk away with pride. We're going to see this is a problem anyway, except not so much that Israel has that pride, but that Gideon has that pride. But that's chapter 8. We're not there yet. So God says, just tell everybody, if you're afraid, leave. Where went 20,000? Okay. Well, goodbye. We've had it. No more. 22,000 to say, all right, we've had enough. Because they have to understand the odds are against them. In fact, this looks more like a planned suicide than a planned attack in actuality. Because you don't usually win battles even when you had 32,000 against 135,000. Now he's down to 10,000. These guys are at least brave, right? Or at least they are too embarrassed to admit they're scared. They could have a little codependency saying, I'm not going to admit I'm scared. I'm not going to. Actually, if Gideon was obvious, he would have left because he's afraid. But we got at least 10,000 who aren't willing to admit they're scared. And God then says, oh, yeah, still too many. We're going to go down and take them down to the water fountain and see how they drink water. Now, the amazing thing is, by the way, that everyone goes along with this, okay? So there is, in fact, some submission here. You don't hear any, complaints by Gideon saying, would you explain really the plan? Everybody just keeps doing what God tells them, so that's to their credit. A lot of us might be asking a lot of questions about this time, like, What's going on? So depending on how they lap water, and no, I don't think there's anything. It wasn't like the really good people lapped water one way and the really bad people lapped water. You can get your commentary out and figure out if I don't think there was any significance. It's just that God wanted to cut the number down to 300, which is the same number that Abraham had when he went to rescue his nephew Lot. Interesting, right? And again, he was outnumbered, went up against, a whole group of kings of 300 people, which again, doesn't seem like a good idea. And so God says, okay, now we're ready. So now we got 300, and we have 135,000 plus the camels. Don't leave out the camels. They're mean, okay? So, now these guys have to have some kind of courage, faith, trust, because what's the plan? We're going to attack them? Now, God says something funny to Gideon. He says, well, if you're afraid, go up and attack him. But if you're afraid, well, actually, it should be translated, I think, since you're afraid. Okay? God's not really in any doubt, because quite honestly, we have to understand, it's easy for us to read the pages in the Bible. I'm not afraid, but I'm not actually seeing an army of 135,000 armed, mean bandits, down there with their camels. And this, at a human perspective, looked like suicide. 300 against that horde? This is 0% chance of working. This can't work. This is beyond everything possible. But God says, tell you what, he says, go down and just visit the camp with your best friend there and see what they're saying. And then you'll see this in Judges 7, 13 and 14. Okay, so he creeps down there and he hears a couple guys, they're on watch. And Gideon crept up just as a man was telling his companion about a dream. The man said, I had this dream, and in my dream, a loaf of barley bread came tumbling down into the Midianite camp. It hit a tent, turned it over, and knocked it flat. His companion answered, your dream can mean only one thing. God has given Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite, victory over Midian and over all its allies. And it says Gideon heard this and he worshiped, and now he believes. Now, in all likelihood, this wasn't the only dream. There most likely were lots of people dreaming, and basically a prophetic word had gone into the Midian camp. We don't know all the details of how it got there, but these people have come to believe we're in trouble. God is going to fight for Gideon. And they do believe that they're not bigger than the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In fact, they don't believe their idols are greater than the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so the fear is in the enemy. God has filled this enemy camp, though all the odds are for them, through a prophetic word, he has made them afraid. Now, this whole thing, by the way, can you imagine, this tent is like a great big tent, like nice tent. And, you go down and take a loaf of bread and you throw it at it, okay? and the whole thing goes flop. Well, it's just supposed to be comical. It is, because pieces of bread don't knock down tents, okay? And so the whole point is God's going to use something really, by the way, this was the kind of bread the poor people ate, really, really nothing. He's going to take nothing, and he's going to knock it all down. That's the message of the dream. He's going to take that which is nothing in and of itself, and he's going to wipe them out. So now Gideon believes, and he comes back to the 300 and says, okay, guys, charge. This is how we're going to do it. You get the trumpets, and you get torches, and you get, pots, and we're going to break into 3 companies, and just follow my lead. Now, these 300, I want to meet in heaven, okay? Because, what did he say? He didn't say, pick up your sword. He said, go pick up your pot. This doesn't sound at all like, what is he thinking? And we got torches and we got horns. Okay, here we go. So these guys, they have faith that God's doing something. They don't, Gideon isn't showing any super brilliant, look, I'm Hercules and I can wipe out people type of moment. He's just saying, follow me. And he's asking them to do stuff that wouldn't seem to be real effective. And so they do it. They actually just go ahead, 135,000. They smash the pots. They say, for the Lord and Gideon. Now, there is some question whether that last phrase should have been in there. Because there's some, in chapter 8, we start wondering. But psychologically it worked because it was obvious that Gideon's name was known among them. And yeah, the 300 torches normally, when you looked out at the dark, they would be in a change of shifts where 1/3 would be going back to the tents and 1/3 would be coming back out to guard the thing. If you have 300 torches out there, that normally means you got thousands and thousands and thousands of troops, because not everybody carries a torch. And they hear a loud sound, and hear 300 people shouting. By the way, most of the time when people do the battle, not everyone shouts. They just have, And panic comes in. God sends panic, and they start killing each other. By the way, Gideon hasn't killed anybody. They've wiped out some pottery. And so of the 135,000, such a panic runs in that they kill 120,000 themselves. And they run away. And God has done the impossible, because again, the whole point of this was, there's no way that 300 can beat 135,000. So when this happens, only the Lord is going to get the credit. See, that's the point, see. So they start running. So there is a call out. Some other troops come out. Ephraim comes out. They grab a couple of the commanders and kill the commanders. Well, chapter 8 talks more about that. But he just starts chasing these guys, and there's 15,000 left. And so a victory beyond all imagination has really taken place. And of course, what Israel should be saying, God has delivered us. So why don't you just say that out loud, because that's the real main point of the passage. God has delivered us. This is true, see? So the big idea, we find it in the New Testament. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 12:9 and 10. Paul is saying each time he said, my grace, now Paul had said, Lord, if you'll just get rid of the problem, I'll be such a better apostle. Ever ask and tell God that? Lord, I'll tell you, if you just made my life easier, you wouldn't believe what I could do for your kingdom. If you would just let me win the lottery, I could give so much to missions. Yeah, we all get there, right? So each time the Lord said to Paul, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. By the way, if you're wondering what is the thorn in the flesh, it's insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that he suffered for Christ. See, it says it right in the context. I'm not confused. I think that's what he meant. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So let's say that together. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Boy, that doesn't sound right on Monday morning at all, does it? So the key question for you and me, are you depending on your own strength or God's strength for victory? See, every day we face trials, every day we face challenges, every day we face temptations, every day we struggle. Welcome to East of Eden, that's your address. Mine too. And the question is, when I face that day, am I looking at how strong I am, how bright I am, how much experience I've had, add to the list, how many friends I have, how many clicks I get on Facebook, I don't know what you want to add in. Or do I believe that if anything's really going to work, it has to be a gift of God? See? And that is really what it is. So the key point here is, in this chapter, salvation is all his grace and not our works. Now, my friend, if you don't know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, I have here the Gospel of John. I would invite you to take one because, you see, the most important thing, to become a Christian, the weird thing is this is what you have to say. I'm hopeless. You see, you have to come to a point where you don't hope in your own righteousness. You really have said, I'm going to go to hell in a handbasket if I die in my current condition. If I'm judged fairly and rightly, I don't have any hope at all. And you have to come, be poor in spirit. You have to say, I can't. But the good news is that God has mercy, and God did. In Jesus Christ, God did it all. Jesus on the cross died for our sins. He ended it by saying it is paid in full, it is finished. He rose from the dead to prove this whole thing isn't a fairy tale, but reality. And he says, all who call upon his name will be saved. And you say, what do I have to deserve it? Nothing. It's all a gift paid for by him. And you simply say, Lord Jesus, I want you in my life, and I can't live without you. Okay? Amen. So if you're here, and it's okay, I love the fact you're here and you're going, I don't know what he's talking about. That's okay, because just take the Gospel of John, and if you know how to introduce somebody to Jesus, go ahead and stand up. That's you guys out there, yeah. If you know how to tell somebody how to find Jesus, stand up. Now you see, these people will be here after the service, and if you don't know Jesus, go find them and say, hey, listen, you said you knew how to tell me how to find Jesus. Now, if you're lying right now, go find somebody else here, and then you both can find Jesus, okay? So that'll work. You can be seated. Father, we ask right now that if there are any here that don't know you, that they will know you, and they'll take the gospel, believe it, and Lord, all who believe are forgiven. Amen. Now, also, if you have a friend that just needs a Gospel of John, you can take one, but don't just take one just to add one to one more pile of books you're not going to read, okay? So, the second point, only when we see our weakness do we become thankful and love the Lord. You see, as long as I'm taking credit, I'm not really grateful. But the more I see that everything, my salvation, my forgiveness, every good gift, everything I have is a gift of God. And out of that, as I catch that vision, you say, Holy Spirit, let me see this. Let me just see all that God has done for me. Then what is created in the heart, you see, that's when I love him. That's when I make the transfer, you see. It's only out of that thankfulness. You can't just, love is not created by willpower. You can't simply say, I will love, 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 because your emotions aren't set up that way. They don't listen to your willpower. They listen to what you see. What you see impacts your emotion, to revelation. And when you see the greatness of what God has done for you in Jesus Christ, when you see that, when the Holy Spirit reveals that, then what is created is love. So if you want to love more, look for Jesus. Look at Jesus. Look at the cross. Look at every good thing that ever happened. And what will happen? The Holy Spirit will take that vision. Remember Paul's prayer, may they see the height and the depth and the width of the love of God. That's what we needed to see. And the more we see he loved us, massively more than we could ever love him. But when we see his love, when we become thankful for all he's done, then our hearts will respond by the grace of God in love. And the third application of the chapter, we grow in our Christian faith when we recognize we can't, he can. You see, bottom line is, I've already done things I can't do. It's true. I look back at some of the things I've done, I said, I can't do that. And that's because I didn't do that. He did that in me. And so the thing is, we really grow. In the 777, there was this ongoing thing where people were praying through, and then basically, and this was something that just kind of happened spontaneously at 777, and it was something where eventually people came and said, they heard the Lord say, I've got this. So often, you see, we're telling God the truth, which is, Lord, you don't understand. I can't. He believes us. Whoever told you you could. But he says to us, don't worry, I've got it. And that's the more we realize that our dependence on him getting it and him doing it, the more we really grow into maturity in our understanding and our faith. So that's chapter 7. Chapter 8, you've been waiting in anticipation for chapter 8. Now, see, that was the rise of Gideon. He was clothed in the power of the Lord. He called in 32,000 guys. He retired all but 300. He went in the power, the Lord overcame his own fear, gave him a barley thing, knocking down tents, and he said charge with trumpets and with water and torches, and 120,000 of 135,000 slaughtered themselves and run away. And he then calls up some of those guys who he'd sent home before, and they kill a couple of the commanders. And wow. Now, if we didn't have chapter 8, we would say this is pretty cool. But it's a tragedy, remember. See, tragedies are only felt because you go from a point of greatness to a point of grief. You go from victory to defeat. That's what makes it tragic. And remember, Judges is a divine tragedy. God's trying to warn us of some stuff. And by the way, never feel superior to the people in Judges, because I'm not, and you're not. they had the unfortunate, place of God putting their history in the Bible so that everybody for thousands of years could find out how they messed up. Just imagine when we read your book in heaven. No, wait. Okay. So, Judges chapter 8. The first thing, now, you're going to figure, Israel should be happy. They just, the locust plague, the Midianites, they've been defeated. Yay, team. No. Quarreling. The Ephraimites come out and say, hey. They had, come up to help out, and they had killed a couple of the commanders. Are you prejudiced against us? Why didn't you make us part of the strike force? These guys, by the way, seem to really like war. I mean, this is weird, but they seem to say, give me a good fight any day, okay? If you go into the history of this tribe, they seem to be, Rambos, okay? Rambo tribe, okay? So the thing is, they really how dare you not give us a chance to fight? And he comes diplomatic. He really does. He says, who am I compared with you guys? You guys have done so much, and you guys killed two of the leaders, and I am nothing. My house is the smallest of the houses. Your house is great. And he humbles himself before them like major time diplomacy. But remember, he's talking to a tribe that's basically made up of Rambos. So, it is in fact possible when it says they were angry with him, yeah, they might decide to just turn on him. And remember, he's got 300 guys. So they say, okay. But the main thing, too, in this conversation, there's very little mention that it was God who gave the victory. See, these guys want to think that they would have brought the victory, that it was their soldiers and their army and their brilliance in battle that you should have called us up. You need us. All you got is God, Gideon. What? And it's God who won the victory, see? But they do, quiet down. Now, he's pursuing the 15,000 with his 300, and they're getting tired. By the way, they're on camels, and his guys are on foot. You go ahead and figure that out, The other guys are moving faster, and they've got camels, and you got feet. So they're tired. They're trying to catch up with those guys, and they're worn out. So he goes to a couple of the cities, and he says, listen, can you give bread and provision? Well, you see, they have to remember, they're doing head count. Gideon, 300. They still got 2 commanders, 2 kings. They got 15,000. 15,000 versus 300. You do the math. Forget the fact that 120,000 have already just been slaughtered by themselves and by the Lord. They're not feeling this is necessarily a good deal because, by the way, see, the fear was these commanders would go back home, recruit another army, and Israel will be right back where it was before, okay? Because these leaders go back, they gather up a new 150,000 guys, and they come back. So until the leaders are dead, the threat isn't dead. So they're calculating this is not a time to vote Gideon. All those in favor for Gideon? And they basically say, when you bring these other leaders back, then you get bread. Until that time, no, because if they beat you up and come back, they are going to slaughter us and we'll lose. He has a temper tantrum. What? You're going to be sorry. This is a threat. You're going to be sorry. Boy, are you going to be sorry. You said no. I don't think that threat was from the Lord. That threat was from Gideon. He took it as, you're not respecting me. Not so much you're not believing in the Lord, you're not believing in me. See, Gideon has also begun to really, he's holding on to it a little bit in a couple of phrases, but he's beginning to lose the vision that it's God who's winning. He's starting to believe he's a hero. And the Lord, the sword of the Lord and Gideon, well, it's becoming louder and louder in Gideon's head. And Gideon, as we'll see later, this leads him into some bad things. So he does, in fact, he sneaks up on them, panics them, wipes out the 15,000 are routed, captures the two commander kings, brings them back. And then he comes to the cities and, he said, I told you you'd be sorry. And boy, you're going to be sorry. So 77 of the leaders are tortured at least. It's possible he didn't survive that type of torture because it was pretty intense. And then he went and killed all the men in the other city. That's, by the way, God didn't command him to be killing other Israelites. There wasn't any, the voice of the Lord did not come to him and say, slaughter all the men in the cities that would not give you bread. This is Gideon's war, not God's war. And so, he's begun to believe his own press. Then they come up to him, they say, you be king. Remember, the problem in the book says, there is no king in Israel, so you be our king, you be our ruler, you, your sons, your grandsons, create a dynasty. Because, he's a bit intimidating right now. He just wiped out a whole group of people. He just killed 1,000 people. I mean, do you want to get on his bad side? He's the new godfather. Okay, we got the message. Don't mess with Gideon. He got rid of the Midianites. Okay, you're the new guy. Now he says something really good. He says, listen, I will not be your king, God is your king. And he was 100% theologically right. But nothing he does with his feet following this seems to mean that he means it. He's theologically correct, and he is, in fact, not going to allow any more worship of Baal for about 40 years. But he starts doing things that only kings did. So he says, all I want are those gold earrings, and then he's going to melt them down. Anybody think of another time when the Israelites took gold? Yeah, the golden calf. Yeah, we're supposed to make the connection, okay? This is not good, okay? Last time we did this, that was detour, okay? So he melts it down. This is 43 pounds of gold, worth about $1 million a day. How's that for a coat? And it's an ephod, and the only one that was wearing ephods were the priests, and they weren't made of pure gold. So what he's done is he's saying, you want to get in touch with God, come to my house, come to my city, because look at what, God's obviously on my side, because wow, look at what I've done. So he's taking over, he's centering the faith of Israel in his hometown, not in the tabernacle. This means, the right words are being used, but they're treating Yahweh as an idol. Remember, they say that on the golden calf, what was written, and we don't know this is a Jewish tradition, but they say was written, this is the God who brought you out of Egypt. This is Yahweh. So you see, idolatry can come in very indirect ways. So he's wiped out Baal, but now he's building up his own house to be the center of revelation, the center where people, and it tells us that Israel committed idolatry with his ephod. They began to think there's magic around the ephod of Gideon and also his house. So the key passage at this point is, in fact, that it's in Judges 8:27. Gideon made a sacred ephod from the gold and put it in Ophrah, his hometown. But soon all the Israelites prostituted themselves by worshiping it, and it became a trap for Gideon and his family. Now, in addition to that, he takes all the spoils of war that normally would only be taken by a king, from the Midianites. They had all these bracelets around the camels and stuff, and the cloaks and so he's acting like a king, though he says, I'm not king. In addition to that, he creates a royal harem, because you see, he ends up with 40 sons. And you only end up with 40 sons if you've got more than one wife, okay? And the thing is, we don't know about the daughters. There was prejudice there. I'm quite sure there were some daughters sprinkled out in that as well. And he makes his house, he goes back to his house, but his house has become really like capital. He's where people go. He's acting. I'm not king, God's your king, but I'm here. And I have money, and I have wealth, and I have power, and I have military force. I've got 300 people guarding me. And so, whereas he says, I refuse it, he says, have you ever said no, but really meant yes? And it's called passive aggressive. Sometimes we say the right thing, but your feet will always betray you. Your feet are telling you what you really believe. And Gideon's feet are saying that he wants to be treated like a king. Now, he kind of proves that. Chapter 9 we're not covering today, but you can read it on your own. It's like the end of the tragedy. We're not going to actually do chapter 9. We're going to press on. But he has a concubine, which is kind of a second layer wife, and the children of that concubine don't have any legal right to inheritance, okay? So they're usually not thought about very well. But what happens is that he has this child, and he calls this child Abimelech. Now, there's some debate, but many people, believe that means my father is king. Wait a minute. I thought you said you weren't king. Well, yeah, but. So what happens here, that there's peace, military peace, civil peace for 40 years. There's no worship of Baal as long as Gideon is alive, okay? But the moment he's dead, whoa, my goodness. There were some things here. By the way, the Lord did not get credit for the victory. Gideon did. And then it says in verse 33, then it came about as soon as Gideon was dead, that the sons of Israel again committed infidelity with the Baals. Notice, by the way, idolatry is always considered spiritual adultery. Understand, when the ephod, they prostituted themselves. See, it's always placed in, because our relationship with the Lord is supposed to be seen as a love affair of intimacy. And when we turn to other things in him, we're actually committing adultery. James 4, by the way, verses 1 through 10, New Testament, James says the very same thing. So you see, it's really important that we try to drive out the idols from our heart, because God looks upon it as being unfaithful. He looks upon it as adultery. And then the sons of Israel again committed infidelity with the Baals and made Baal-berith their god. So the sons of Israel did not remember the Lord their God, who had saved them from the hands of their enemies on every side. See, they really didn't remember, and nor had they ever really given God the glory. The very thing God, I mean, when you take 300 and defeat 135,000, you would think they would get the idea that was a miracle. But instead, they really gave the credit to Gideon. See, the fear God had is that Israel was, if you had too many, Israel would say, we have delivered. And what happened is they started to say, Gideon has delivered. And, you know, he was acting really like he was Messiah. He was prophet. He wasn't prophet, but he was priest and king. And so he was taking on a role that people had a tendency to look at him rather than to the Lord. But they didn't wait, nor, talk about, see, true tragedy, nor did they show kindness to the household of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in accordance with all the good that he had done for Israel. Now, if you want to read more about that, read chapter 9, because it ends up being a horror story. But it does, in fact, point out that his son goes all the way in complete darkness. And so the story of Gideon is a tragedy. Now, what is we to learn from that? Why did God do that? Well, the big idea, 1 Corinthians 3:6. I planted the seed in your hearts, Paul saying he planted the seed of the gospel in the hearts of the Corinthians. Apollos watered it, but it was God who made it grow. Always remember, everything that you have put your hand to that is a good thing, you know, it was not a sin, but it was a good thing. Every good result that you've ever had, and I've ever had in my entire life, has all been God. When we keep getting confused, and we're thinking some way, you know, there are people that don't work as hard, and yet it works. And there's people that work themselves to death, and it doesn't work. It's God who decides. He allows things to grow. Now here, this is evangelism. It says one person plants the word of God, another person nurtures the word of God. Who was the most successful evangelist in both the Old and New Testament? Jonah. He got it right. A+, front row. So, yeah, because, you know, he walks in, 3 days, whole city, 120,000 converts. That's better than anything they had in the book of Acts. And that's because Jonah was the most spiritual of all the prophets of Israel. No. Sounds good, though, yeah. He was a guy who tried to say, I don't want those people saved. They deserve hell. I'm not going there. You have a tendency of forgiving sinners. I don't want to tell them anything. They might repent. How's that for an evangelist? God gives him a free trip back. Little smelly, but... And then he shows up looking like a zombie of the living dead walking in town, you know. And they listen to him. And the whole city repents. And it's God who gave the glory. God was saying it's not Jonah. It's not the power of Jonah. It's not the preaching of Jonah. Not the man of Jonah. I decided I'm going to do something great in Nineveh. And guess what? Even Jonah can't stop it. Even messed up Jonah can't keep me from giving mercy where I want to give mercy. So we have to understand, this is the question. Are there aspects of your life and my life and work you think, and I think, you should get more recognition and honor for from people? Have you ever said, you know, they just don't appreciate me? They just don't appreciate what I do for them. They have no idea about the sacrifices that I'm making. they don't show me the type of respect that I deserve. I know none of you are so unspiritual to say any of those things, but, those things have occasionally, spouted out. Because we get into this self-righteousness, and we get into self-dependency, and we really do believe. Now, by the way, no, it is important we show up. I'm glad the 300 did not run away. See, it is important to show up. It's important to be where God's calling you to be, doing what God tells you to do. But guess what? If it works, it's not because of you, and it's not because of me. So isn't it important we show up? Yes, amen. Show up. But don't think your showing up is the power that makes things work, see? And yeah, don't become like Jonah, because traveling by fish is smelly. So best to cooperate. You can come easy or you come hard. I suggest come easy, okay? It's a whole lot better. He disciplines those he loves, but yeah, if you can avoid that, highly suggest to just say yes. Lord, if you say we're going to go take on 135,000, okay, here we go. And understand he calculates the odds totally different. So there's your homework assignment for today. I want you sometime today or tomorrow, today better, tomorrow, okay. I want you to list every success you've had that you can think of in your life, and every rescue. Some of you would say, I don't know if I've succeeded. Well, has God rescued you? Has he ever intervened in a way? And go ahead and make the list of all the successes, but do it on where there's still like half a page. So, in other words, try to have it so that there's a half a page there. And so you can say, yes, I graduated out of college after 8 years, which, by the way, it didn't seem very likely. The first thing I told my wife, see, I got kicked out of Bible college, and then we went to a seminar, and I felt God wanted me to do some things that required me to have a degree. And I told my wife, I'll never be able to get what God wants done in my life because I got kicked out of Bible college. Boy, there's no way I can go back to school. And my wife said, if it takes you going back to school to get God's will done in your life, we're going back to school. And in 2 months, we're in her little Toyota. We have packed it with all of our belongings, got rid of everything else, and we're heading up to Geneva College. And God said, no, Norm, you're wrong. I can get you through. And he did something. He gave me a success there was no way it possibly could have worked. Now, again, God used my wife in a very powerful way because she had the tendency to tell me when I said God can't, she had a tendency to say, God can. She was a wise woman. So, amen. He was. So I went through this exercise this week, in fact, and so I was writing down the 10 best, most successful things. And then I did that. See, the important thing was because I was reading Gideon, it was there, and this is what I want you to do. So make the list, whatever your list is. It can also be rescues, like, I should have been dead, but God preserved my life. Okay, so that fits into that because that's a deliverance. Or, God should have just let me go because I so whipped in the head. Why does he invest time in me? Okay, so whatever it is, so you come up with your list. And then on the other side, what you do is the victory was given to me by Jesus Christ. The victory was given to me by Jesus Christ. The victory was given to me by Jesus Christ. And you're going to go through and you're going to give the glory and attribute to it exactly where it belongs, because you may not have ever recognized it, but everything good that's ever happened in your life and ever will happen in your life is all coming from Jesus Christ, okay? That's the truth, see? So do that next week. I think I may be sharing the word with you again. You know it's revealed, so we're never 100% sure. But it's possible, at least according to the chart. And I'm going to start off by saying, how many of you made the list? Because you see, this is vital, because Gideon forgot. We have communion here, so we must give. It's God who gives the increase. And also, has God already done huge things for you? He already has. Somehow we remember the problems more than the promises, more than the victories, you know. But let's go back. Whatsoever things are good, whatever things are noble, whatever things are praiseworthy, whatever is worthy, go and dwell on those things this week. And the peace of God that goes beyond all thought will reach your hearts and minds. Amen?